You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Theory, only at DD Fantasy Football. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. You already know I'm joined by Dan Lamagna at FF Coach Dan. What's going on, Dan?
What's going on, gentlemen? Excited to be here for another episode of Dynasty Theory. Just yelling at my little TV on the side here. George Pickens touchdowns getting called back, coming off of a Sunday where the refs are throwing flags left and right. I think they have something against my lineups, but I'm sure all of us Dynasty and fantasy owners think the same thing.
No, I think they're specifically against you, and I can you blame them? What's
targeting,
going on,
man?
Mitch? Well, anyway, what's going on, Mitch? That's at DynoMC on X.
I'm excited that we decided to give this whole episode. Only thing we're going to talk about is, are the Detroit Lions the greatest team to ever step on a football field? I think it's pretty close after the last 3 weeks, to be honest.
All right. Well, on that note, let's get right into it. We don't have time to waste on that.
Good try, Mitch. Good try.
Maybe next week. All right. So tonight, gentlemen, we are 8 weeks into the fantasy season. So, essentially the midway point. We want to run through a few players that we are looking at and identifying as midway must buys or sell nows. I think there are opportunities every which way. And, have you guys, Mitch, I want to start with you before we really get into the names that we want to talk about. We have 4 players we want to break down tonight, but have you had luck one way or the other? Like, what has been easier for you as a dynasty manager going out? Like, you're looking to rebuild and working with teams that are making a push, and you're selling vets and players that can produce, or have you found that you've had more luck as a contender poaching those players off of teams that maybe are looking to rebuild?
I think it's pretty easy to sell vets. I mean, you're in a couple leagues that I'm in with John. It's not hard. Like, a lot of times is when you're a rebuilding team, you go out and find what injured player is out there that you like, and you could trade your old vet that you're not going to love next year for the injured player. It's one of the easiest moves you can make in Dynasty. I think what's really hard right now is, as a contender, buying vets that you have confidence in, not just this year to make the push, but next year as well. And I think a lot of those players are kind of hard to get right now. Like Cooper Kupp is one. I like Cooper Kupp as a contender. I don't love Cooper Kupp going into next season. Derrick Henry's one that I really like. I don't know how many times I could go out and tell people, hey, go out and give a late first to Derrick Henry because it's what it's going to cost at this point, and then be okay getting very little next year, maybe. So it's tough, but I definitely think it's a lot easier to move off these vets.
That's where it's the difficult part, and you really talked about it, finding players that are producing today that are going to help give you that push in 2024, but have a somewhat decent projection or expectation in maybe 25, 26. Like, those are the guys that are really extremely difficult to acquire in Dynasty. The guys that are producing, that are somewhat young, like, go out and try to get an AJ Brown. Go out and try to get,
Trade for Kyle Pitts today. Good luck.
Yeah, I actually, because again, I'm a psychopath. I was going through old episodes, and mainly it was because I wanted to point out players that we had talked about that I want to make sure we get some new players each and every week during these discussions. But our Kyle Pitts discussion, man, I was bashing him. I am like, the movie Good Luck Chuck?
Yes.
Did you ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Where Dane Cook is with a girl, they break up, then the very next guy she meets, that's the love of her life, and they get married. Here on Dynasty Theory, if I bash a player one week, that is the key to unlock their future. That's exactly what it is. So, Dan, I want to turn it over to you now. So Mitch is saying he thinks it's easier to find the teams that are contending, sell his vets for pieces that aren't necessarily sell his vets for pieces that maybe aren't contributing to that contending team. Do you agree there?
I don't know. I haven't taken that approach too much. I'm trying to find those teams that are selling parts to help my contending teams build. So I'm a little bit more on that end. But like the weekly trade market, here we are in week 8. I feel like it's throwing spaghetti at the wall every single week, just hoping to get active buyers. But I don't know if you guys are experiencing it as well. Like we've got a couple of leagues I know we're in that like are just active all the time. But I feel like they're a little bit more newer startups in the last couple of years. But holy cow, trying to get dynasty owners, like I'll have trades sitting out there for like a week at a time, you know? And I know John's like, dude, like if they don't answer me in 24 hours, that trade's off the table. But like
24 hours?
So hard, you know? Yeah, I was probably
maybe 2.4 hours.
I was gracious there. So I'm just trying to find out who those active owners are. And then sometimes that really limits your pool when you have leagues that there's only like 2-3 teams that want to trade. But I'm staying aggressive at it, you know, getting a trade here every week or two and making as much progress as I can. But for me, it's mostly looking at those teams that are like they're ready to pack it in. They want the draft picks. You know me, I'm always willing to sell those draft picks.
I think it's easier for me, at least, if I'm looking to contend or I am contending and I see there's a piece on a roster that's towards the bottom of the standings, if I have pieces to move. Now, here's kind of the thing of it all, though. And Dan, you might run into this at this point in the season, and that's not a snide comment by any means, but I think you can let me know if it's true or not. Like, if you've gone through the season, 8 weeks, and you had the entire off season prior, if you moved picks, now you're kind of in a position where it's like, I don't really have the assets to move. And this is why we talk about, pushing some pieces out and getting those future draft picks that you then are able to use as currency during the current season. One other question here, Mitch, I want to throw it to you before we get over to these 4 players. Do you ever find yourself, and I'm asking these questions because I'm going through my leagues today and I'm negotiating in some places. Do you ever, like, if you're not contending, like, do you ever find yourself making contenders pay that contender tax that you hate that I apply to you?
Honestly, no, because I think it builds bad juju moving forward in trade negotiations. I really do. Like, I know you could charge just that extra little bit. No, I want that third on top, and I'm not doing it without a third. But there will be a time to where, probably in this league, to where I'm going to want to get a trade done with this other manager. And they're going to be like, no, that one time you charged me an extra third. Now I'm going to charge you a second on top of it. And you're not getting this player. And like Dan said, some leagues, you might be in a 12-team league. There might be only 6 active managers that you could trade with. That happens in a lot of leagues. And so if you end up pissing off these managers just because look, I had someone in my DMs the other day say, hey, I have to win trades. I don't do any trades unless I have to win. And I'm like, dude, I'm just not going to trade with you unless I can find out whatever calculator you like that I can take advantage of to make you think you're winning the trade, right? But I want trades that are really close, really balanced, because I think it ends up making the league stronger. And I just like doing trades like that. I think you'll both maybe agree. I hope agree that if I see a trade is close, 90% of times I just accept it. I don't counter back. If it's close, I hit accept, move on, and we're good from there.
We are 3 totally different styles, which is really fun. And I agree with you, Mitch. And Mitch is totally fair. JB's like an exact science. He either loves it or hates it. And I'm that guy that does try to toggle for a little bit more. Sometimes that bites me, sometimes I get it, whatever it may be. But to me, I love negotiating. It's like the manager in me. But I think the 3 of us all have a good spirit about it. And I think most of our other league owners have that too. Hey, it's the fun of the game. We're enjoying it. We're trading. We bust each other's chops in the Discord and those kind of things. So hopefully other owners, take that with a grain of salt and then they have fun and they just enjoy an active league where there are actual trades.
All right. Well, we promised a few players we're going to get through, and we are going to get through them starting now. But before we start running through these players, make sure if you're watching, you hit that like button. I know you're already subscribed to DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel, and then head over to ddfantasyfootball.com. Use our code THEORY It helps us out. It helps you out. 50% off the first month on the $15 tier or the GOAT tier. So come check it out. The link is in the episode description below. All right,
JB, real quick timeout too. So for our listeners, like JB gave us a really good homework assignment for Mitch and I. And I think the players that we were looking at for either contenders or rebuilders that we want to buy, I think they were names that, one, you would want to get them if you can, or two, they're like obtainable and they're not like just those nasty players. Like there are some of the leagues, like some of the offers I've been getting, like that you see people put on a trademark. I'm like, I don't want those guys. Like you're asking me for a first for them. And like, I know there's just nothing there. You know, they might help me for a week or two, but I wouldn't want them next year. So I think these are good players for the listeners where they could potentially get them and you won't regret having them.
Yeah. Like you see these guys hit the trade block and it's like, 29-year-old wide receiver that isn't producing. Well, a contender doesn't want them because they're not helping them. A rebuilding team doesn't want them because they're 29 years old. But anyway, Dan, I want to start with you, with one of your guys here. And initially, I had this episode titled Midway Must Buy. So midway through the season. But then I started digging into some of these guys, specifically one of Dan's guys, and I was like, I don't know if I want to buy this guy. So then I was like, let's change it to must buy or sell now, and I think we're gonna have good discussions here. But Dan, you're looking at DJ Moore, 18th most traded wide receiver over the last week. All of those trades that are available over at dynastydaddy.com in the trade database, and you can apply filters and get as specific in terms of league format as you want. But he's been involved in 439 trades on the site. Year to date, 12.4 PPR points per game. That's good for wide receiver 31. What do you see in him, Dan? What do you see that you're thinking, man, I want to go out and acquire DJ Moore at his current price?
Before I answer that, I want to say George Pickens caught his second touchdown tonight that didn't count. He gets his right foot in twice, but the left foot just never goes down. Like, just totally cursed with George Pickens. But
how
we're
does
talking
that
about
happen? He's like
Moore.
a pogo stick. What's happening there? Anyway,
yeah,
go.
You'll enjoy the replay later. But so what I liked about DJ Moore, I was trying to check a few boxes as, okay, I'm a contending team. I want to, I'm normally looking to trade a first, but I want to get a guy that I'm going to want to have next year and beyond that could help me this year. One of the things I'm starting to look at is the end of season schedule, and DJ Moore ends with Minnesota, Detroit. I know, Mitch, but we're hoping for a high scoring game in Seattle. I think that's a real strong postseason schedule coming up. He's got a rookie quarterback that I love. He's connected to. He's age 27, so I'm not going to hate him for another 3 more years, 2-3 more years. So I'm willing to give up that pick, have a guy that's, I really think like this is his buy window. Prime years, 27, going to enjoy him for a few years. Great end of season schedule for this year, and I'll enjoy having him with Caleb Williams next year. And I think he's more attainable. Like we're not talking like Mitch mentioned earlier, hey, good luck trying to get A.J. Brown. You're not going to get him. Those big names. DJ Moore, there's a reason I think he's traded as many times as you mentioned, JB.
Yeah, and he certainly could have provided the splash games. I mean, he's only had 2 games over 12 PPR points. Wide receiver 83 with 5.7 PPR points per game since week 6. You look at the Trinity score, which is available over there at ddfantasyfootball.com, 6.38 for the season. First 5 weeks, 709. Last 3 weeks, 4.6. That is a big gap. Even the 6.38 were right there on kind of lower end wide receiver 1, higher end wide receiver 2 usage. And the first 5 weeks, we were seeing him used the way we want him to be used. But now it's like Keenan Allen coming back. How much of a monkey wrench does that throw into things? Mitch, you've had a lot of discussions and points made, whether it's on this show, whether it's on the weekly episode of Winning the Week, or whether it's a tweet. You've been throwing out tweets. You had Ladd McConkey a couple of weeks ago.
Sure did.
Look at the game he just had. But does the Trinity score, the trend there, concern you with DJ Moore, or is there context needed here?
So for me, like the good thing, I could see why Dan wants to buy into him because we believe in the talent. And this is what you kind of run into is we want to we could say, hey, go get Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp's attainable on anyone who's rebuilding. You could go trade for Cooper Kupp, and that could just happen. Same thing with Devontae Adams. DJ Moore is a guy who isn't really helping teams contend yet. He's fine. He's a borderline flex play, but that's about it. But he's getting a little bit older, so rebuilders will be willing to move him more. And at first I saw the name. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm willing to buy him, but I do want pieces around Caleb Williams. And then I look at the trades you have listed, John. I'm like, I thought his value was higher than this. If these are the trades that you could get done now, I'm all about getting DJ Moore because, like Dan said, guy's 27. We have 3 years before we have to worry about it, before he gets 30, and then he turns into that dreaded thing to where like you're trying to actively get him off your team at all times. So if you could give me the best pass catcher right now with Caleb Williams, I think it's a buy, especially at attainable prices.
I actually, we talk about these receivers hitting their prime at the age of 27, and yeah, he's not getting any younger. I mean, father time, he's undefeated, but like, I actually don't mind taking a look. If you're not contending, if you're rebuilding, if there's a team that is contending and they're looking to shore up their wide receiver spot with production, like let's say you have a player lingering on your roster that could potentially add value, especially the way the running backs have been going. Mm-hmm. Like, could you do, like, you could probably get a plus with DJ Moore if you have Derrick Henry lingering on your roster and you haven't been able to cash out at the price you're looking to move him for. I mean, like an Alvin Kamara maybe, but I do think it's a little bit easier cross positionally right now because you have these veteran running backs that are out there producing. And like the running back market right now, it's super hot, right? Like these dudes are just, they're killing it right now. So I think there are opportunities there. So Mitch, let's start with you on these going through. DJ Moore for 26 first, 12 team super flex, start 9 PPR.
If it's purely random, 26 first, I'll go DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore for Zay Flowers in a 26 third, 12 team super flex, start 11 PPR.
I'll take Zay Flowers here. I think he's just a younger. He's Lamar's number one wide receiver right now.
Yeah, I'm loving Zay, man. As much as I wanted to keep on the DJ Moore trade, love Zay too much.
See, I like that one because you're not losing production. You're getting back 3 years, and you're getting the additional asset. I know it's only a third, but we just talked about it to start the show where you get those future thirds, and it allows you to buy a veteran mid-season to plug and play if necessary. All right, Mitch, DJ Moore, a 25 first and a 25 third for Amon-Ra St. Brown. 12-team Superflex, start 10 PPR.
Let me tell you how close this is for me. If that was a 25 second, I'd be taking the DJ Moore side. The third just doesn't quite add enough for me to move off Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that is an extremely close trade. And if you tell me that 25 first, maybe it's closer to the 105 and not the 107, then I'm going to take the DJ Moore side.
Dan?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm on the DJ Moore side. That 25 first with it, that's just two beautiful assets. I think DJ Moore will keep it close enough for me where I'm going to take the package. It's a Lions fan over there.
I'm actually surprised that Mitch, I understand the placement and the positioning of the 25 first. It's going to come into play. Surprised that Dan really was all aboard that DJ Moore side. For me, without knowing additional context around that 25 first, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. And like I typically do week in and week out, our listeners, our viewers, drop it in the comments. Would you prefer DJ Moore and the 25 first and the 25 third, or Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 12-team Superflex Start 10 PPR? And if there is that breaking point for you, where does that 25 first have to be? So let us know. Drop in the comments. And again, don't forget to hit that like button. Mitch, DJ Moore and a 26 first and a 26 third. These thirds are just lingering all day for Tyreek Hill. 12-team Superflex, start 10, half PPR. These are all trades, again, from Dynasty Daddy over the last day. And I tried to find trades centered around these guys that we brought to the table today.
I'm pretty close to being willing to take a random 25 first for Tyreek straight up. So this is a 26, so it's a little bit devalued, but you're getting DJ Moore on top of it, so it's DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think the other trade was a little bit harder just because of the youth of Sun God versus Tyreek's hitting that, that 30 club. So give me DJ Moore, and I will be patient, which you guys know I'm not good at doing for that 26 first.
But even if you're not patient, you have that flexibility. You have that liquidity to be able to move that pick in another trade, have the cascading trades, if you will. I recently acquired Tyreek Hill. I think it was 3 days ago for a 25 first, a third, and I think another small piece. So that kind of goes with what you're saying, Mitch. It's like the first for Tyreek is really close enough. So a couple trades involving DJ Moore there. KTC has him wide receiver 22. Fantasy Calc has him wide receiver 20. I have him in that tier, but still wide receiver 16, so a little bit higher. I think there are opportunities to position yourself, like we talked about, especially cross-positionally, but even within the wide receiver position, just because of the lack of production. But, as we were having this conversation, I said I had to change the name of the show from Must Buy to Must Buy or Sell Now because of DJ Moore, but I don't really disagree with you guys all that much on this one. So, okay. All right, Mitch. We're back on the train. It took a while.
We are.
It didn't happen quickly. It didn't happen too swift. Do you see what I did there? DeAndre Swift, Mitch. He is the 7th most traded running back over the last week, 472 trades. Year to date, 15.7 points per game. That's good for running back 16. Since week 4, he is running back 3, 22.6 PPR points per game. What has you back in on DeAndre Swift outside of those beautiful, beautiful fantasy points?
The most important thing, if you look up his Pro Football Reference, it is DeAndre T. Swift. So that does raise up the value a little bit, just so you know. I didn't know that till just barely. But the reason why I brought that up is I want pieces around Caleb like what I brought up when we're talking about DJ Moore. So that offense looked like utter garbage for 3 quarters this past week. Like, it was bad. But Caleb has that natural talent to just make things happen in the 4th quarter. Now you're looking at their offensive line isn't great, but it's fine. Their defense is extremely good and is going to keep them in most games. So now you're telling me if DeAndre Swift can stay healthy, that has always been his thing. He's always had the talent. I mean, going back to Detroit, like Deuce Staley said that he could easily be the best running back in the league if he would just be willing to be the best running back in the league. And he got that huge contract, Chicago, so he's going to be there for multiple years. I'm completely good. He's getting like 20 touches a game. He has 7 reception upside. He could carry the ball 23 times if that's what they need. And it's really, what back can you look at right now that's 25, 26 years old, that's in a good offense, that you could be comfortable, could be good for future years? To me, this is a David Montgomery from 2 years ago when he went to the Lions. Everyone wanted to write him off. He's the older back. Oh, his value's not going to hold up. Yeah, unless that offense is really good. That offense is good, then all of a sudden he could get you 50 yards and a touchdown most games. You're getting 12 points. And most running backs aren't able to do that for you. So really, for me, I think he's a really good buy on a contender because you could count on him for future years, hopefully. I know this has been a short 6-week thing that we've seen, but so far, so good. And Caleb isn't going away. Like, I think Caleb's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league for a long time. And having that it factor just kind of changes things.
Since week 4, I said 22.6 points per game. He's 8th in snap percentage, 17th in rush attempt percentage. So, it's not like he's getting run into the ground and he's being asked to do these things that he might not necessarily excel at. 11th in route participation, 6th in target share. You guys know I want my backs that catch passes, and DeAndre T. Swift is doing just that. And the team might stand for tremendous. All right. So, Dan, what are your thoughts here on DeAndre Swift? Is he a buy for you at his current price?
I was really surprised Mitch mentioned him, because I swear somewhere in the Discord chat at some point you dogged Swift, Mitch somewhere.
That would be that'd be 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so I'm not losing it there, like JB. I thought it was like that relationship breakup where Mitch is like, it's not you, it's me, like it was, but you get this complex of that common breakup there. But I liked him in startups going into this offseason as a value where he was being drafted. I liked his fit with the Bears. They were really all in and aggressive in getting him. He's only 25 years of age until January. So that's a big plus. So, just looking at this, I think Mitch picked a good guy for a buy at the running back, ranked 16th this year. I was a little worried through 3 weeks that my little value buy with the Bears was going to be a bust, but boy, has it been rewarded the last 4 weeks, and he's looked explosive. So I think as long as he stays healthy more often than not, you've got a good play in DeAndre Swift. So good potential guy that you could get at running back.
And again, it's one of those situations where if you can find a team that's not contending or their season hasn't gone the way they expected, you might be able to get DeAndre Swift at a decent discount strictly because he's a running back. And if people are looking to dump points, there's a team that I was just looking to blow up. And I think 2 weeks ago, I moved Swift. Like there's a game against the Median, and I think I'm 1-13 so far through the first 7 weeks. And I moved Swift for like a second and maybe 2/3 or something like that. Now, if I'm contending, I'm smashing that buy price. But this is a very, I don't want to say very unique situation, but it is a unique situation where I was not looking to go anywhere anytime soon. So in that case, I was looking to move off of them. But Dan, we'll start with you on these couple trades. We'll go Dan, Mitch all the way through. DeAndre Swift for 27 first, 12-team Superflex, start 9.5 PPR.
Hey, just a real quick comment. I wish I was getting more DeAndre Swift offers for where I am looking to contend and give up a first. Instead, I'm getting Kareem Hunt offers, which I think might, could help me this year. But I just can't live with that next year. So that's where I'm normally declining. But in this trade here, I'll take Swift, man. 27's a while off, and I think, like Mitch mentioned before, you're going to get at least a couple good years out of Swift.
Agreed.
Same settings, work our way down. 26 first or DeAndre Swift, Dan?
Still Swift. I'm in that bucket of, hey, finish strong this year, enjoy next year.
Yeah, 26 is still too far away for a running back. I think I could get 2 years out of.
Dan, 25 first or DeAndre Swift?
Now it's interesting. And I think more often than not, I'd rather that 25 first. If it was like dead late, maybe I'm thinking about it depending on roster scenario, but apples for apples, give me the first.
Agreed. I think you could just do more with that 25 first. You could probably get a little higher. You could probably attack Saquon Barkley type of back with a 25 first with adding a piece instead of just going straight for a DeAndre Swift.
Or again, knowing your league dynamic, looking at the market, really taking a calculated, I don't want to say risk, but attack here, and look at running backs that you should get somewhat decent production or close to DeAndre Swift, possibly, maybe not close to that 22.6 points per game, but you can move less for as opposed to that 25 first. Like there just aren't that many running backs I'm willingly moving my 25 first for.
Yeah, agree. And I also think too, when you're looking at if you are getting that first round pick, who's that first pick going to be in the draft next year? If it has a chance to be in a middle first round pick, man, you might get a running back that's going to be better than DeAndre Swift, or you might get a receiver that's better to build your team around than DeAndre Swift. So that's enticing.
All right, Dan, DeAndre Swift and Darnell Trinity score Mooney for Jonathan Brooks. 12-team Superflex, start 11 PPR.
Hey, Mooney's been reborn, man, and I think that's for real there. I think he's a good receiver to have in your team. You're starting 11 in this format, so I think that extra guy helps. Brooks may end up being a little better. He definitely has, I guess, his outlook or his profile says he'll be better than Swift in the long run, but right now I'm not ready to roll that dice. I'm going to take Swift and Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney was a great free agent get for Atlanta this year. For me, it's not like if you even added Jonathan Brooks and a second, I would still probably take the Swift and Mooney side.
this trade specifically, when I was putting these notes together and pulling this information, it made me look at some of my contenders or teams that, are making that push where I have Jonathan Brooks and how I can leverage that. Because even though he is a running back, he's one of those running backs that teams at the bottom of the standings are probably going to be a little bit more willing to acquire. So I know you offer a lot of teams at the bottom of the standings running backs, and they say, I'm not interested in a running back. But if you're trying to get an older running back in return from them, it's kind of addition by subtraction. So even though they're getting the running back and taking that shorter term shelf life on, you're also taking the age off of their team. So like that's a long-winded way of me saying I love the Swift side here. All right. And if not contending, I would still want this framed a little bit differently, because Mooney's not necessarily a piece that you need to move on from.
Exactly.
If not contending. Dan, Swift and Cole Kmet for Chris Olave, 12-team Superflex, start 9 PPR, extra half point for tight ends.
And I think we're going to end up talking about this Olave guy for some reason tonight. And, I feel a little guilty here, right fresh after National Tight Ends Day. But we're looking at half point tight end premium here. So that gets devalued a little bit for Kmet. I want to build my team around the franchise receiver. I think it's a fair trade, but I'd rather Chris Olave.
Agreed. I've never been high on Kmet. I'll probably never be extremely high on him with all the pass catchers there with the Bears. I'm going to go Olave too.
This one, I also am going to go Olave, especially with it being start 9. If you are looking to get Swift in a trade like this, it's not going to be adding a piece like Kmet. I would be looking to, I always talk about in the Discord, like I want it to be structured a little bit differently. This is the type of trade I'd be looking to do that, change it up a little bit. All right, Dan, DeAndre Swift for Calvin Ridley in a 25 third, 12-team Superflex, start 10, half PPR, extra point for tight ends.
I'll smash Swift here. I've never been a Ridley guy, never will be. The third, not enough to move the needle.
Agreed. I was a big fan of Ridley through the first quarter of the game over the weekend, but that was about it.
See, Ridley
had like 7 catches for like 100 yards with 4 minutes left the first quarter. It was crazy.
He's had a wild ride of a 2024, and especially from a Trinity score perspective, he was top of the charts. He was having a fantastic first couple weeks. Then DeAndre Hopkins is lingering around. Ridley comes back down. But if I like Calvin Ridley as a guy that you potentially can get at a reasonable price because he's got that Titan stink to him. And, I don't think he's priced that highly right now. Like maybe a second and a third can get it done in some spots. And I think teams that aren't contending would be interested in something like that, but I'll still go Swift there. All right, Mitch, we just talked about Swift with you. Do you like the way I phrased that? Because I was going to
quick switch.
I was going to bring another Mitch guy up and I was like, wait a minute, we just did DeAndre Swift. So Dan, we're not going to go far. You said we're probably going to talk about Chris Olave here. So Chris Olave, 7th most traded wide receiver over the last week, 564 trades. Year to date, 10.6 PPR points per game. He did have that game where he got the concussion and he left super early and then he missed a game. Trinity score 5.8. This past week, 8.78. Like he was just getting used galore. And, maybe Jake Haener was the thing that needed to unleash him, but it sounds like Derek Carr is making a push to come back, especially after he saw the backups play. But yeah, Chris Olave, what intrigues you? And I guess you're not concerned about the injuries?
I'm not, man. It kind of comes with the territory a little bit with Olave and the Saints team with Carr and whatnot. 8 for 107 this week. So I wish we're talking about Olave a week earlier, but it's just a good point for, I think, dynasty owners. Bet on talent. A guy's a stud. He has a 3-point clunker. He loses a half a minus a half a point the week before was bad. Then you had the bye week. That was a nice 3-week window to just kind of hop on a Chris Olave. Probably would have gotten him a little cheaper before the 8 for 107, but I think he's still obtainable. It hasn't been a great season. He's wide receiver 44 overall. But when I look at him, again, I was looking at end of season schedule, and I see Jacksonville, Rams, and Buffalo to end the season. I think there could be some, better scoring weeks coming there. I think Carr's coming back. I think it's an offensive coordinator that's had some good moments this year. The team has just been depleted with injuries, and Olave's only 24. So I just think this is one of the better buy windows to get a talented wide receiver on your team.
All right, Mitch. Chris Olave for Keon Coleman and Travis Etienne, 12-team Superflex, start 9 PPR.
This one's tough for me because I love Keon Coleman. Like, I love what he's done. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, at least the last 3 weeks, he has looked awesome. His route tree is doing.
He's been very good recently.
But I hate Travis Etienne. Like, I just don't want him on my teams. So, it's Olave for me. But if you put a different running back there that was the exact same value as Etienne, I could very easily flip.
So right now, let's say 20. Aaron Jones.
No. It has to be someone that's not 45.
J.K. Dobbins.
It's someone that's not broke. Okay, maybe I lied. Maybe this isn't gonna work. John's picking like the worst players ever. Hold on.
Well, what do you think Etienne's value is right now?
You give me
DeAndre Swift.
Wow. Yeah, he's a lot lower than what I thought he was. So yeah, never mind. It's Chris Olave. I was used to Travis Etienne not being around like Tank Bigsby type of value. That's an issue.
That's where we're at, though. Dan, do you agree here? Are you going Chris Olave?
Oh, man, this trade's like torture here. But, we're agreeing too much on the show tonight. We've been agreeing too much in the last few weeks. So it's time to just, turn things upside down here and disagree. Roll the dice. Sometimes you got to get in a gambling mood in dynasty trades. Keon Coleman woke up last week, right? Even though JB hates him, he'll argue whether he does it or not in a little while, but he just kind of has shown something in the last few weeks. So that's encouraging. He's got a pulse again, and Etienne can't be that bad, guys. I mean, he was, potential stud going into the year. I think it's more a product of the way injuries have come into effect and Jacksonville's ups and downs, but he was running decent. It's just, he was been splitting with, Bigsby, but Bigsby can't catch. Etienne's definitely going to get the receptions when he's healthy. So hopefully Etienne gets traded or Jacksonville gets better. I'm going to roll the dice with the 2-for-1 here and give me Keon and Etienne.
Even the start 9, that doesn't sway you more towards the single asset and Chris Olave?
I'm thinking trade tools, starter on a bye week, a running back and a receiver, both young. I'm okay. In this scenario, the start 9's not scaring me.
All right. Mitch, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, and Sam Darnold for Jordan Love, 12-team Superflex, start 11 PPR.
Like, if you could guarantee me that somehow Sam Darnold, like, I know he is not going to be coached by Kevin O'Connell next year, but if you could tell me that would be the case, I would go with the Sam Darnold side, but I'm not, because it's Jordan Love by a fair amount for me. But Sam Darnold's going to get paid next year. I really think he's going to be a starting quarterback. But my problem is it could be for like the Raiders. And then it's going to be terrible after 6 games. And so if you take him away from that, coaching tree, I really worry about it.
Dan?
Yeah, for me, it was a smash Jordan Love. I mean, it's a little scary right now if you're a contending team and, Love's looking pretty banged up and just limping through this season, and you're starting 11, you get a stud receiver to Olave. Darnold's looking great this year. Jacoby's just a bench guy. But to Mitch's point, you fast forward to next year.
Jacoby has been, when Jacoby's on, he's on.
He is, but he's never going to get any respect. He's like the Rodney Dangerfield of fantasy football, man. No respect.
His last 4 games, 7 for 62 and a touchdown, 5 for 49, 6 for 72, 6 for 52 and a touchdown. And this is with Dan Lamagna. And we saw Dan Lamagna play quarterback in Canton. in that interception. This is with Dan Lamagna, quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Don't disrespect
that
Jacoby
interception.
like that.
Zeb didn't come back to the ball in the first game, and we only got one play. So
erroneous.
I should have looked for you, JB. Ironically, I was thinking about that in my drive home tonight. For some odd reason, Canton came up in my mind, probably preparing for the pod. I'm like, I really should have hit John down the sidelines. But all right, here nor there. But just too much risk in that trade. So I think Jordan Love long-term is the way to go.
Does this change for either of you, Mitch, if it's Kirk Cousins instead of Sam Darnold?
Gets it a lot closer. Yeah, no, honestly, Cousins, I would take Olave and Cousins and Jacoby.
What if it was Bo Nix, Dan?
Dude, I like Bo Nix. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you're going to have Bo Nix for 4 years, 5 years. I think he's going to continue to get better. So, yeah, that's a keeper.
Okay. All right. Mitch, Chris Olave for Jamison Williams in a 26-second.
Not Jamison Williams.
That's coming from a Lions fan. So heartstrings included. Mitch is no. But yeah, Jameis is just too streaky and too much going on off the field. Olave's all the way. All
right. This last guy, Mitch, this is your guy, and I love it.
Yes.
I'm at like 30% exposure. The
Russ Wilson at the receiver position.
And coincidentally, one of Russ's former receivers. 326 trades over the last week involving Courtland Sutton. Year to date, 9.7 PPR points per game. He just had a goose egg 2 weeks ago. He's wide receiver 50 when you look at it on average. Trinity score 6.46. In week 8, it was 8.54. Bo Nix and him, like he made an effort to get him the ball, and it actually worked out pretty well. Imagine that. When you throw the ball to your best receiver, things can go pretty well. Since week 3, he's at 11.1 PPR points per game. And again, that includes that goose egg from 2 weeks ago. So, Mitch, Courtland Sutton, obviously a guy on a contender you're looking to acquire here.
Yeah, he's done well in the trendy score all year long. He's always been really good. Somehow he has a 51% air yard share, which is just like insane. 22% target share isn't all that great, but he turns 30 next year and he is going into the final year of his contract. I mean, it's all base pay money, so that more than likely they're going to restructure. He'll probably get an extension. But the big thing is Bo Nix has looked really good. So 3 out of the last 4 games, he's top 200 yards passing. And he's had multiple touchdown passes in 3 of the last 4 games as well. I think this offense is finally clicking. Peyton's out there talking a little bit of trash again. Coach is out there willing to hammer a little bit. I like that. That means he's confident. He's getting more confident in this offense. And there is no one on this offense to throw to besides him and like Devon Vele. That's really it. I think Bo Nix is a quarterback we probably don't talk about enough because he plays in Denver. He's always playing in the late games. He was kind of like the last good rookie quarterback drafted. And Courtland Sutton is just one of those old vets, but he's an old vet that you could have in your flex spot for 2 years. And I really think in the price point, he's a huge get right now because he is better than a lot of just that really borderline flex, like DeAndre Hopkins before he got traded to the Chiefs, because who knows what's going to happen now, right? But would I rather have Courtland Sutton or what DeAndre Hopkins was on the Titans? I'm going to take Sutton every single time. And I think the value is really close to the same there.
On KTC, Sutton is wide receiver 66. Fantasy count 64. And why do I have 30% exposure? Well, because I have him at wide receiver 44. I'm significantly higher than market, and it shows. But Dan, let's start with you here. Courtland Sutton for Will Levis and Mr. Yoshivas. 12-team Superflex, start 11 PPR. But yes, this is where we are with Will Levis.
These trades were easy for me, and I think this is the price market I would think Mitch is looking to acquire Courtland Sutton in. Maybe a little bit more, but to me, like at age 29, I do worry a little bit. So I wouldn't overpay for him. And I still worry that there's going to be some tough weeks in Denver. They've had some soft opponents here. That's helped some things, but he's definitely steady Eddie. He definitely still looks good. He's a good dude too. Like a week ago when he had that dud, Coach Payton apologized to him on the sidelines after the game because they just didn't get him the ball. And he's like, I'm fine. We just won. I'm happy. That's all I care about. So like, there's no baggage with Courtland Sutton. So I think Coach Payton loves him. And he made it up to him this week, and they fed him the ball, and he produced. Carolina's soft, so that's just a little asterisk in there. So I think as long as you're not overpaying, he's definitely a guy I like Mitch's value better than DeAndre. And in this case, for Levis or Jasovich, man, Yoshi, like I've expected a little more from him.
What was that last name? What was that?
I call him Yoshi, man. Jasovich, Jasovich, iOS. Apple had a new 18.1 update today for the new Apple Intelligence. I don't know, whatever you call this guy. He hasn't really shown me that he's gonna be more than a role player. So let's go with Yoshi. Yoshi and Levis, not enough for Sutton. Give me Sutton. Smash.
Not only is he shown he's not enough to be a role player, he's not enough for Dan to learn his name. Mitch, do you agree here? Are you out on Levis at this price for Sutton?
Yeah, so I was offered Levis for a second and a third. I said I would do it for the third, but I'm not going to pay a second for Will Levis, so Sutton.
That's one of those situations we kind of alluded to earlier in the show where it's the other way around, though. Will Levis, if you're not contending, he kind of makes sense to acquire, but it's is he even going to be the starter next year? So at that point, why? Yes, he's not producing, so you get him at a discount, but I wouldn't pay a second for him. Anyway, I digress. Dan, 26 second or Sutton, 14 team Superflex start 11. So 154 starters in this league.
Yeah, man. 14 teams, start 11. You need dudes. Sutton's more than just watch the schedule kind of starter in this league. And that second's out not until 26. So easy Sutton for me.
Yeah, completely agree.
And then again, just speaking to the price point, there were several Sutton for 25 thirds, 12 team Superflex start 10 PPR. Can we just agree? Let's rip it like a Band-Aid. Sutton across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Send that third pack, and I'll throw in my fourth and some fab.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm even willing to spend 2/3. And again, if he is lingering on a team that is not contending, just test the waters. Test the waters. So it's talking about DeAndre Swift, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore, Chris Olave. Drop in the comments any of those 4 guys that you're interested in acquiring at price. If we're crazy about any of them, let us know. Hey, I'm going to be selling at that price, but drop it in the comments. We get some good discussions. And I always like to go back and look at some of the things that people were saying and, getting involved with those conversations. All right, Dan, for the 266th time here on Dynasty Theory, what are your final thoughts for the listeners?
Few quick ones. NFL trade deadline is election day. All right. So we will not see no more ads, and you will watch to see what NFL guys move. So I'm trying to guess who could be traded, and maybe there's some value to be bought if you could guess right and a guy lands on a good team there. Some bonus buys. Before the Dallas game last night, I was hoping, Dallas was in such a rut, CeeDee Lamb or, Dak might still be a buy. Who knows? But I'm pissed at Dak right now. Pardon the French. But it's just a lot of emotion in Dallas right now. But Tony Pollard might be a bonus buy in the Swift realm there. I liked Pollard going into this year. He's gotten some production. And I'm like, all right, I want to kind of sell him. But then I look at his schedule for Tennessee, and there's some soft opponents coming up for Pollard. So he just might be a buyable guy with some good production. Devontae Adams is just a popular one that I think we've seen as well. And I just like his soft schedule at the end of the year with Washington, Green Bay, and Las Vegas, some revenge games there. And then a week ago on the show, we were talking about I was interested in the Cleveland Browns, and Cedric Tillman really went off after we were talking about him. I'm kind of looking at the Carolina Panthers receivers right now. Deontay Johnson could get traded. Xavier Legette, maybe he gets a new quarterback next year. And Jalen Coker's kind of flashed a little bit the last couple weeks. Could be like a freebie. And I'm still going to believe in Ladd McConkey, boys. Could be a future buy there. I don't think it's going to be this year. I think this is a year of learning for him, but I still like the talent.
A few just thoughts there on all of that. There was a lot to digest there. I'm surprised we didn't get another Apple plug, but Coker
I could,
probably
man. 18.1 tonight, JB. If you photobomb like a photo, I could crop you out now with the artificial intelligence.
How do we permanently crop you out of the show?
Oh,
that was good.
Jay.
That was good. But Coker probably available on your waivers in a lot of 12-team leagues. So if you are intrigued like Dan, maybe you can go out there and get him just for fab. Deontay Johnson, I think his trade market picked up a little bit because Christian Kirk is out for the year now. So teams that might have been interested in either of them as a trade candidate, well, now your option is Deontay Johnson. Mitch, final thoughts. What do you got?
Look, by the time people listen to this, it's week 9 of the NFL season, which means it's time to make decisions about your dynasty teams. You know, we do a lot of these buy or sell episodes because they matter this time of year, but now it's time for you to decide if you are buying or selling. Don't wait it out 2 more weeks because there's a lot of people like what I have done. I have 2 leagues to where somehow, like, I loved my team beginning the season, didn't work out, and I immediately started moving players today, and I'll be doing it to, you know, this week on all my MFL leagues, because it is time to start to make moves. You can't just be hesitant, slowly push, and then right before, if you have a trade deadline, be like, okay, I'm going to try to move everybody in this 3 days. You might have missed some really good deals just by trying to kick the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah. And the safe league deadline's week 12, Mitch.
Ooh, that's 3 weeks.
Throw that in there.
If you're looking to move veterans, I do think it's important to be first to market in a lot of situations, or at least ahead of other people, maybe not being exactly first to market. But like Mitch said, if you have 3 teams that are active and making a push and they poach players off of other teams because those other teams are actively trying to move players, by the time you see that you're not in contention and you're looking to move a veteran, there might not be a market. So now either you're stuck with that player and you're accumulating more points to knock your max points for potential points in a direction that you don't want it to go, or you end up selling for cheap because you waited. And then on the other hand, if you are attacking and being aggressive and trying to contend, just be diligent, put in a few minutes, look at the teams that are at the bottom of the standings. You know, especially if you have a larger portfolio, you have to be a little bit more strategic in your approach because people are busy. You don't always have the time to look at every single team, but attack those teams that are the bottom 3 in the standings. Attack those teams that have their trade bait updated. Attack those teams that are actively looking to move players because it's the path of least resistance, and you're going to have more success there, I think, than just randomly throwing out blind offers, especially if it doesn't make sense for your trade partner. So I think those are all critical pieces and things that can help you maneuver here throughout the 2024 season. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of Dynasty Theory. It was a fun one. We had a lot to talk about despite only 4 players to discuss, but there was never a doubt we could talk about. I mean, I've done this before where I didn't talk about any players in an episode, and Dan was egging me on trying to get me to name a name. But anyway, drop a like, hit subscribe, click the link in the episode description below to check out ddfantasyfootball.com, the War Machine, the Trinity Tool. Jump in the Discord community for a lot of great insight and conversations, but there's also bonus shows. There's like, I don't even know, 8 different bonus shows every week, something like that are only available through the Discord. So check it out. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Have a great night. Peace.